there, my name is Dr. Marissa May. In this video, we are going to be solving the equation 2x to the second minus 8x equals 13 using the quadratic formula. Now, before we can dive into the quadratic formula, we need our equation equal to 0. So I'm going to subtract the 13 from both sides so that I have 0 on one side of the equation. Once you have that, then you can pick out your a value is 2 here. It's the number in front of x squared. Your b value is the number in front of the x, which in this case would be -8. And your c value is the number without a variable. That's -13. Now, I have taken the quadratic formula and put in some blanks here, so to make it a little easier for us. So you'll notice in my quadratic formula, it begins with -b. I have a negative, so I'm going to put b in this parentheses, -8. Plus or minus big square root, then I've got b to the second. So again, I'm going to put that b value in there. And then I've got -4 times a. So I'm going to put my a value in this first parentheses and my c in the second parentheses. Then on the bottom, I've got 2 times a. So I'm going to put my a value in the bottom there. And now I have everything substituted into my quadratic formula. I'm ready to start simplifying. Let me show you how I do that. So I begin with this -8. So negative times a negative is a positive 8. Plus or minus. And then under the square root, I do two things. I begin by doing -8 to the second. So -8 to the second is 64. Then I keep the minus, and then I multiply all three of these together. So 4 times 2 gives me 8. 8 times -13 gives me -104. And then on the bottom, I go ahead and do the 2 times 2, which is 4. Now I'm going to go ahead and under the square root, I'm doing 64 minus -104, which gives me 168, and divide by 4. Now, the 168, I'm going to have to simplify that square root. So what I do is I come over to the side and I do a little factor tree with 168. And what I'm doing is I'm saying, okay, what two numbers will multiply to give me 168? So that's pretty easy with a 2 because it's even. 2 times 84. Okay. I leave the 2 version by itself because we call it prime. And then 84, I break into, again, 2 times 42. And again, I end that 2 there. And then 42 is 2 times 21. And then 21 gives me 3 and 7. All right. So here's what I'm doing with this 168. I'm going to look for pairs. So it looks like I have a pair of 2s, right? And that's the only pairs I have. So I'm going to rewrite this as x equals 8 plus or minus. I've got a pair of 2s, so I'm going to write a 2 on the outside to represent that pair. And then everything else goes on the inside. 2 times 3 times 7. All the stuff that didn't have a pair. And then divide by 4. Okay, so let's clean that up a bit. I've got 8 plus or minus. I've got that 2 on the outside. And then I've got 2 times 3 is 6. 6 times 7, 42. And then I've got to divide by 4. Okay, so notice the 8, the 2, and the 4 all on the outside of the square root, and they're all divisible by 2. So I'm going to go ahead and divide them by 2. So 8 divided by 2 is 4. 2 divided by 2 is 1, so I don't have to write that. I don't touch what's underneath the square root, and then 4 divided by 2 is 2. This is my final answer. I've simplified it as far as I can. Now, if I have to write them as 2 separate solutions, that would look something like this. I could write it as x equals 4 plus the square root of 42 over 4. And I get the other one would be x equals 4 minus the square root of 42 over 4, which of course, then you could go to your calculator and get decimals if you needed to. But this is how I find the quadratic formula used the most and simplified. All right, friends, I hope this helps. Bye for now.